Everyone, or good evening. October the 3rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'll call the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to order. Just a reminder, if you plan to speak on an agenda item or whatnot, if you're a citizen, we need you to sign in per TCA. If you will stand with me for the pledge and invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight thanking you for all the many blessings of life. Dear Heavenly Father, be with us as we conduct the business of this town. We just pray that the things that we do will be in accordance with thy will. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
All right, I'll mention one more time, if anybody wants to speak to an agenda item, we'll get to that in a minute, but you got time to sign up right now. As far as our meeting, I want to make sure that we make note that Alderman Reed is absent tonight. All other aldermen are present. Alderman Reed's had a family emergency he had to attend to, so he's not able to be here tonight. Approval of minutes, you should have picked up that packet either in hard copy or electronically. That is before you. I'm sure you've had a chance to read that. If you see anything there, you need to address. I'll accept a motion for the minutes.
Also,
Motion by Alderman Carter,
I second.
second by Alderman Morgan. Took a minute. Any discussion? No discussion. Alderman Maynard,
Yes.
Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Wood,
Yes.
Alderman Carter.
yes.
All right, the minutes have been approved. Okay, there are no policy issues tonight. Public comments? Anyone? Okay, we'll move right along. Didn't really have any old business other than, let me refer back to the minutes for a minute. On the second page of the minutes, under financial report, it states that Mayor Billings approved payment to Dustin Bruce for transportation for the training module for the fire department training. Just for the record, you'll see this in financial report too. If you look through that, it was $495. If you don't remember what that was, there was I think it's right, what, $495?
I think so.
Yeah, close to that. But he brought a trailer down for training for the fire department, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. I have a couple of questions since he's here tonight. And so that's a payment, and everyone needs to remember that if we're using our personal vehicle to go someplace on business, that we have a specific travel policy that we have to follow. If you're using a company vehicle, which would be like a fire truck or the fire chief car or the police car, things like that, or the maintenance truck, we have a policy for that too, but it's handled differently. Okay, so one of them is personal reimbursement, and the other one is paid through the state mileage program. So anyway, just in case that comes up out in the public somewhere, you're able to explain it. We have a policy that guides us on how we reimburse people for travel and what kind of travel it is. Tennessee Riverline Partnership, they unveiled their mock-up of what Saltillo and Savannah and all the places along Tennessee River in Hardin County that very interesting. That should be placed at some point on the Tennessee Riverline website that shows what Saltillo looks like. Some of you had a chance to give input to that through electronic survey type thing, and we had 4 or 5 or more that went to see the unveiling of this. So pretty interesting, but like everything else when you do these studies, it's pie in the sky, everything you can think of you may ever want, and then as you get started in the motions of that, you might not be able to do just a little bit at one time. So, but the park plan is grand. I can't wait for it to be posted online, because they wouldn't give me the big placard to go with it, but they've got a big map like this that shows what they envision. And so maybe you get a chance to see that. Check out the Tennessee Riverline website. Let's see, I think I have something else in here. I think that was the main thing from the minutes I wanted to address on that, okay? All right, so if the board doesn't mind to give me the latitude, can we jump down to financial reports? Y'all have any objection to that? All right, so financial reports, if you have in front of you, got several things. First thing I want to address is 2023 River Day for Saltillo. To let you know kind of what the actual expenditures were here. The committee that gets together to put this event on is open to anybody that wants to be on the committee to help and work and things, but they have not had a meeting since River Day, so there hadn't been any debriefing on all the activities and things like that, but I want to at least tell you and the public about what we did. So River Day, we spent $8,703.50 on all those things that you see there, like the advertisement, the bands, and the Hardin County Band Aseptic System, porta potties, stuff like that. So that's what those expenditures were. And then revenue-wise is an important thing that you should know is that we took in $9,876. So $4,000 of that was approved to Saltillo from the tourism, trying to think the correct title of that, the Hardin County Tourism River Resort Board, that's what it is, River Resort Board. So that came to us in just a check, and we put that in our account. So the over and under on all of this, that we actually, with the donation from the organization, was would come to the good with $1,172.50. So we paid our bills with the help of the Tennessee Resort Board, and we found that some things went up. So going into next year, if we start doing budgets and planning, we'll need to kind of think about what those expenditures are. Some of the bands were a little bit more expensive, and the more bands you get that are first call type bands, the ones that are real popular, of course they cost more. And so if you look at that layout of all those with the sound system and all those who performed, that's a big sizable amount of the whole budget is just the bands, not including the other activities. But you see what the revenue was. Y'all have any question about any of that? It's I've done many festivals in my career, and it's rare that one breaks even or makes a profit if you're trying to do something for the public. We have no entry fee or anything like that other than the people that are vendors and things, and the kids jumping thing, and a few things like that. But we don't charge anybody to just show up and come in. So I would encourage the committee to continue to work on this type of budget and make sure we can at least break even and make a profit. But I wouldn't suggest by any means to charge an armband for somebody to get in. We want people to come and in and out as they please through the day, but I thought we had a good day of it. Any questions about that? It was well attended and well received from those I talked to. In addition, all right. Financial report. If y'all look at the account balances sheet for a second, this is the one that got the little city logo on it. We're doing real good on our general fund. We've got $159,686.49 in a general fund. The fire department, we have an account, specifically checking account for fire department, $736.02. Our park fund, we just received $750 from Hardin County for support of our parks. So that was another $750 there. And then they also gave us, and it's not, I think it might have went into the general fund, the other $750, the $1,500 for seniors, right?
Yes, it was $1,500 for parks.
Yeah, so
and
$1,500, yeah.
for seniors.
So it was $750 for the community center park, $750 for Lincoln Park, and then they gave us a check for $1,500 for the senior center. So in the parks, we added $1,500. So we're doing pretty good. Out of that parks budget, we pay for repairs, pay for maintenance and things like that. So that's, I mean, we got a little money in that account. This is real money. This is what we have in the bank. This is not the budget, okay? River Day, you see with a sizable amount there, $11,138. Keep in mind that some of that money was profit from the poker run that we put in that account. So we're keeping track of that, what we bought with the picnic table and things like that. And so then, you know, revenue from the tourism and things like that, we put back in that account as well. And then street aid hadn't really been affected too much, $26,150.15. And then the ARPA funds is $81,401.75. So our total cash in the bank is $284,704.59. So we're doing real good as a city. We had a big month with lots of expenditures. We've closed out the siren grant, got all that closed out, bills paid, everybody's done, systems erected and operational, things like that. Then of course we had the River Day expenses that we spent some money. So that's anything on the account balances themselves. Someone asked earlier about the fire department budget to me in the community, and this account sheet, the fire department has their own account, because in the past they've been known to do fundraisers and things like that. So what they did with fundraisers, just like we do with River Day, the money they raised went into that account, and out of that account certain things are already paid to make the fire department operate. Other things from the fire department come through the general budget. So we'll get to the expenditure report in a minute. So there's, just to make sure you understand, fire department has like a checking account set up through the city. The police department does not. And so the way we operate city government is that all of the budgets for fire and police pretty much go through the general fund account, and we have line items that we're able to track who gets paid what salary, what expenses we have, and things like that. So this account here we're talking about is an actual checking account. So in case you have any questions about that, we'll look a little further, okay? Any questions about that? We're doing good. We got money in the bank, so that's always good. All right, we'll move right ahead. All right, so the revenue and expenditure report, if you'll look at that for a second. If you look, good. So if you go to the last page of that revenue and expenditure report, I kind of worked backwards for a second.
That's us.
Could be a 51-year-old male, possible.
Okay. So on the last page, I hope everybody's gonna be safe and all right on that call, whatever they gotta do there. If you look on the last page, the current actual, if you look at that line, it's like the second column over, current actual. It shows total revenue for the month, $27,215.92. Total expenditures, $23,821, and we're to the good, $3,394.53. So for the current month, we're on budget. We're doing fine. So if you look over to year to date, if you see that, we're a little behind. We got revenues $149,992.82, and we spent $156,408.14 year to date. Part of that over budget issue is because we've spent money to pay for the sirens, close out the grant. Also, we had some expenditures that were listed in a way for the year that put us behind because we couldn't budget a revenue, and so a revenue shortfall is part of the reason you see that. So this is what you have. This is a budget plan. It does show what we've spent, but if you look at the first page, I'll show you an example of where we were off a little bit. So for the year. So if you look at the first page, you go all the way down to special events. We had a revenue in that column for $7,000. Well, we did not receive a special event fee for $7,000. It went through River Day account. So, what the county gave us, the $4,000, that's where that would come from for River Day. You see that next line down? So we budgeted that we would receive revenue of $7,000 to River Day. We didn't receive that. We received actual $4,000. So some of our revenues are overestimated, I would say, which makes your final page look like it's off a little bit more. Let's see, if you look toward the top, about, I don't know, the 6th or 7th line down, says grant revenue. See that? So there's a $84,000 expenditure there, $84,104. If you look to what was budgeted, we only budgeted actually like $5,000 because you can't really budget revenue. You just kind of estimate. So that's why your report looks like you spent $79,000 over budget for that year to date because we had the way we had to transfer money and pay for the sirens and all that kind of stuff. So it looks a little off. Looks a little off. Okay, so that's revenue. Expenditures, if you look down to publications and ads, we budgeted $1,000 for this line item for the year, and we spent $1,813.50. And part of that issue, we're over budget by $813. Part of that issue is when we had to post a special call meeting, we had to put an additional ad in the paper. If you have a beer board hearing, you got to pay for an ad in the paper. So there's, and of course, River Day, we put an ad in the paper. So it appears to us from looking at the different things we put in there, the ads and notices, the fees have gone up a little bit. So in future planning, we may want to consider putting a little bit more in there. And that's just the basic bones of what we have to operate on with the budget and publications and notices. Any questions about that? That's why we're over budget in that line item. Let's see. I think that was one that kind of caught my attention because it has gone up some. Some of our other monthly expenses are typical expenses that you see. If you look at page 3, give you another example here what the budget kind of, it looks off sometimes. That where you look down to River Day, it says the budget was $7,500. That's what we planned back in June and July, whatever. But we actually spent more. I mean, we received more on that than what we spent more than what we budgeted. So it looks like we spent over budget. However, we still got revenue back from the Tennessee River Resort Board. So we're really not over budget. It's just the way it looks on your budget sheet. All right, and then I think it was the other. Any questions about the expenditures, budgets, receipts, anything like that? Well, all right, we'll move right on. Financial report. All right, new business. So I thought well, the first one to just say, the new business, first item is about approval of porta potties for the 2014 Sheltering Tree Bike Ride. Last year, the city paid for a porta potty and some snacks for a fundraiser for Sheltering Tree Ranch. They got a bike ride that's going to come through here, and they're going to have a stop at the river and get off the bikes and motorcycle stuff. And so back a few months ago, I talked to Joey, who operates the Splat. So she had decided during River Day she would do this booth that many of y'all saw, the Paint the Mayor and Freddie and all that, some of the aldermen, Splat the aldermen, things like that. So I agreed on behalf of the city that we would participate with some other community members to help raise money to pay for that event. That way, the city doesn't have to spend any money on it. It's not taxpayers aren't using their money to pay for porta potty, that kind of thing. So they raised through that event $265. Wait a minute, I take it back. It's $245. That's what they raised. That's what I wrote down. They raised $245. I'm sure Alderman Reeves had a big part of that too, because I saw a bunch of folks dumping a bucket of money on him at some point, but anyway. So Joey from the Splat, she is partnering with the city to provide that stop. Since we help, participate, that they're gonna pay for the porta potty, which means the porta potty costs $165 to be delivered and set up for a day. And then they'll have $80 left to buy the snacks and stuff. So the city doesn't have to pay a dime on that. So it's kind of a public service community thing to get together. So, I say that's new business, and if everyone is in favor of, the Splat providing the porta potty and snacks, as I have just explained, I just take a quick, aye as approval, as a group. Okay, no. All right, yeah, that's a good thing. It'll help them and, didn't cost anything. The next item, appointment of a support staff, 2014 Shelton Tree Bike Ride. Miss Joy is gonna take care of a lot of this, but she does need somebody to help her. I don't know if any of the aldermen will be available on October the 14th, or, anyone in the public that wants to participate.
I was gonna
I
say,
don't know that-
Carolyn and I did it last year, and, it was really nice. It was, seeing the people on bikes, on motorcycles, and they had a little girl that they were helping that year in particular, and they brought her in a car and was down there, and we had just had bottled water and stuff like that, but it was real nice, and they enjoyed stopping, they enjoyed seeing our town down at the landing, so, yeah, I'll help.
Yeah, okay, so you will help her, so I will communicate to her that you will help, and then I get out of the way, all right, Mr. Alderman Morgan.
And I think anybody that comes down there, do y'all ride in it?
I just now got back onto a bike, so I haven't participated in any runs yet.
Yes. So I will communicate to her that you two, and I give her your contacts, and then I'll be out of it, and let y'all work it together. But we got some picnic tables down there and garbage cans. It'll be a nice little spot for them. So I think a couple of those that rode told me at River Day that they like the picnic table. They're gonna be back to participate. Matter of fact, I think the guy delivered the picnic tables. They actually one is riding in the event too, something like that. So, all right, I'll let her know about that. So that's good. All right, next item, resignation of Code Enforcement Officer Kenny Young. Unfortunately, he had to step out on the call. So probably a backstory or understanding of it. And he's not here to answer, so I can't really ask him directly. If he comes back, we will. But I'll put some documents in your folder that we'll get to. But Chief Young resigned as taking care of code enforcement in the last month's meeting. I sent him a message and asked him to submit a written resignation for that position so we could have it as a record. I have not received that. So, and I can't ask him right now if he's certainly gonna do that or not, because he's not here, but he stated to the board, if you recall and look back at your minutes, that he has resigned from that position. So, I would say, as the mayor, I would accept that resignation on that position. So, I would recommend that he submit a written resignation as opposed to just verbal for our records. But any questions on that at all? Okay. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to skip down one or two real quick about staffing appointments, and we'll come back to the other one. Staffing appointments and salary for code enforcement. So, for the last year, I have, actually before then a little bit, but even in all of them, but for the last year, I have been reviewing all these different ordinances that we have, and the ones that tonight we'll discuss more so it pertains to codes enforcement and how that works and what the legal strategy is and what the documentation strategy and all those kind of things. So in some of our ordinances, certain things are a little vague. So some of those things have to be clarified through the attorneys at MTAC and other places like that. But with Chief Young's resignation from that codes enforcement position, that we've got another way to handle it. So according to our ordinance, that it can be handled by the mayor. And I think in the last meeting or the meeting before that, I mentioned to you all that the problem with the mayor doing it is that if I'm calling people and documenting they need to clean up a slum area, or actually the ordinance is 2016-01, slum clearance, that's the one I will address, but that's the most recent. We had one in the book for 2011-07, and we had one in the book 2009-03, but 2016-01 kind of consolidates some of them. And in that ordinance it says that the fire chief, the mayor, or the designee can do that work, okay? So in the last few months, I've been doing that work anyway. But it puts me in a bad position to try to work with somebody to maybe get the grass cut down a little bit or clean up an abandoned house or something. Because when we communicate to them, when we send them that formal letter after some time of communication, that they can appeal the decision to have their property cleaned up. And the appeal comes to the mayor. The mayor's the one that has the appeal, kind of like beer board. The mayor is the hearing officer. So it's not a good practice for the mayor to do that. It does involve some work, it does involve some time, it does involve communicating and documenting what the situation is and knowledge of what the ordinance says the process is, because they're just like any other issue, there's always a process and procedure and appeal and all that kind of stuff. So you can have a designee. So as we think of the board is that if you do a designee, you have to think about compensation. If we're gonna fill that position and have somebody do that work, are they just gonna do it for free or not? So just to let you know the policy and procedures, that there is a way that we can handle it without the fire chief. Okay. But I want you to look at your packet for a second. I provide you a little packet, a little history on all this, because I had to go back and kind of study some of it myself about how we got to the fire chief doing this type of work. And of course, he's not here at the moment to answer any of this, but on the last page, there is a fire chief position and duties and job responsibilities. And this was under the previous mayor, Lowry, and I was an alderman, and Alderman Wood, Alderman Reed, Alderman Morgan, and Alderman Maynard were all on this thing. And the last two bullets of this job description: inspects properties in compliance for ordinances and reports findings to the board. Determines state of properties for condemnation and repairs when needed. I went back into the record personnel file, and I could not find anywhere that Kenny signed this job description. So just as a public person and working in the school business all my life, that you usually sign the job responsibilities duty, or you simply just understand what they are. So that has been embedded into that job over a period of years. And if you look at the first page, this is a minutes from December 7th, 2017. And number 5 says, codes enforcement. Mayor Lowry advised that Chief Scott, assuming additional responsibility as code enforcement officer, he has offered to hold the position with an additional $50 per month increase in lieu of $300, one-time bonus previously approved. So Alderman Reeves made a motion to raise Chief Scott's salary to $350 per month. Alderman Groom seconded the motion passed unanimously. The salary increase will go into effect in January. So when Dustin Scott was the chief, they increased his salary $50 to do this work kind of on the side. Okay, so I can only assume when Chief Young came into the position, he understood that was part of the role, that he would be paid $350, which includes the, the ordinance kind of stuff. The second, if you look at June 4, 2019 minutes, there's some information there about the correspondence and unkept properties and debris and other properties, and Mayor Lowry had some discussion about that. And they were gonna change a few words in the letter or something. If you look at the next one, the October 6, 2021, new business, number 5, overgrown properties. Alderman Morgan advised several properties around Saltillo are unkept. A general discussion ensued. Chief Young is currently working on 4 properties for cleanup. Mayor Lowry advised Chief Young is working on a case-by-case basis. So he's been doing that work. He assumed it worked, but he has recently resigned from that work. So that's where it kind of started when Dustin Scott was the chief, and how Chief Young got to be that codes enforcement officer. That's kind of where it came from. And I think there's another minute that kind of talks about Chief Young's responsibility in that matter also. So there you have it as far as Chief Young's, what he has been doing. And so in the last year and a half, at least in the last year, since last November, he hasn't done any of that work anyway. Hadn't been done. I've had some conversation with him about a couple of things, but the work has not gone on. So we've been paying him $350 anyway, since the time he's employed to present day. Okay, so the issue with the board is we've got to figure out how we're going to move ahead if we're going to have any kind of enforcement of codes, and then how do we compensate the fire chief. So if, and Alderman Carter wasn't on the board at this time, but if y'all remember, about 2 years ago, we had some increases in compensation for almost every employee except the fire chief. And what we said, I think, in that meeting was that we would pay him $125 additional over the $350 as he worked on these properties and resolved an issue. Okay, so I think he got paid maybe once or twice on that extra stuff. So if he has resigned from those duties, the board needs to determine, because he didn't get his pay raise in the last time, should you just go ahead and keep paying him the $350, or should you reduce that to $300 based on what the history of the position was? But you also need to keep in mind that when everybody else, the maintenance and things, we gave out raises along the way, he didn't get anything. And then for the fire department and the requirements for ISO rating, all those kind of things, he didn't get paid much to start with. So we could discuss it if you had questions about it, or some insight about what you think is best, because I've kind of went through this and thought through this quite a bit, but whatever we do going forward, we need to be pretty clear if there is compensation or not, who's going to do it, how we're going to make it work, and those kind of things. So, any questions about that little bit of a history of all the positions? So.
Well, I think, with him not getting a raise back when everyone else did, I'd say keep the $50 on it so that, but I don't know, will it be someone that we'll be hiring then to do the codes office, be a codes officer, or?
Well, that's a great question, because this just came up in the last meeting that he had resigned. So I have put no forethought in hiring anybody or compensating anybody for anything, because I have been working on the ordinances with our attorneys and what the process is and how to make it work, just like I did with 53 Cozy Loop over here, that we worked with that property owner, and that was an easy one to resolve. They kind of agreed to everything, and they got some, it took a little while, but they took care of it, got it cleaned up. Now the house still looks like it's a mess, but the yard and stuff, it doesn't, I mean, it's still abandoned. But they've got some rationale that I can't say on camera about why they haven't been here, because they're dealing with some other issues. But they sent somebody down from, they're out of state quite a way. They contracted with somebody locally to go out there and clean that thing up, and that was an easy fix. Not all of them are easy fixes. So the issue is that at the short term, I can be the person, as it says in the ordinance, to communicate with people and talk with them to kind of find out their situation. But if somebody says, oh no, I'm not gonna do that, I wanna appeal that, that's gonna put us in a bad spot. I think most people, if they got some pictures and knew the situation with their property and it's so overgrown or some kind of, a lot of people are willing to do things but may not have the means or may not have the health, or, I mean, there's a lot, I mean, everybody's got issues, let's just face it. So some people's property have been left in decay and to ruin because, I mean, maybe somebody passed away that owned the land, or a relative is inherited but it's tied up in the court. So, there's 1,000 things that could happen to a property over time. So, I would say, don't get in a hurry to try to pay somebody to do this kind of work, and don't get in a hurry to assign somebody to do it, because we've already been, a year or two without a whole lot of progress. But whatever we do going forward, I think we need to do it the right way so that the path is clear to how to handle those kind of things. So.
I agree.
So,
Yeah, I
Alderman
think we-
Morgan,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just don't, I don't think we need to take the $50 away.
So you wanna make a motion?
I can make a motion
All right,
that we
good.
keep, Chief Young's pay rate the same. And do I need to go into the duties, and that the duties,
Well, let's do this first. Make a motion for the chief's compensation to be $350 a month. Do that.
I'm gonna make a motion that the fire chief's compensation be kept at $350 a month.
And we have a motion by Alderman Maynard. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a second by Alderman Morgan. Is there any discussion? I think we beat that horse to death. So, all right, and no other questions. All right, so we'll take a roll call vote. Alderman Morgan,
Yes.
Alderman Wood,
Yes.
Alderman Carter,
Yes.
and then we
Yes.
have Alderman Maynard. Yeah, so that we do have a quorum, by the way. Although Alderman Reeves is absent, we do have a quorum, so he steps in there. All right, so that makes it a lot easier on the bookkeeping and finance, that his compensation as fire chief will be $350 a month. He will no longer be required to deal with code enforcement issues like tall grass and abandoned buildings, with the exception of, and somebody mentioned about duties, a fire chief has specific duties addressed by the state fire marshal, okay? But when you work for a municipality, that municipality can also add responsibility. You can't take responsibility away, but you can add additional duties, such as what happened in this case. So that will be out of the picture. So in the future, if we ever have, I'm sorry, I got a gnat over here. In the future, if we have another fire chief, we might want to go back around that circle, because a new fire chief, if there ever becomes the case, they may be willing to take that back home. So we just need to think through it as far as where we are. So in the short term, $350 has been agreed to by voted on by the board, and then I will continue to kind of talk to some of the people that have some lots that may be concerned. I get calls about different things all the time, that houses burned down and it's, just pieces of it left. So I'll continue to work on that, okay?
Well, I think we need to put it out, or, are we gonna put it out that we possibly would hire a code enforcement officer to work on a case-by-case basis? I mean, cause there might be somebody in town that's interested in doing that, you
Right.
know?
I'm sorry, I got this gnat driving me crazy.
Because I think that just exactly what you said, you as a mayor going there and then them coming in, if they don't agree, coming back to you, that's not a good cohesive situation.
Yeah, I think down the road a little bit is probably what we need to look at what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think when you get around the budget season and thinking about the next budget for 2024, because, you know, starting in January, we'll start looking at that next year's budget, and that may be something to consider. However, the position is an appointment, and that's what the ordinance says. The position can be an appointment, the mayor's designee. So, whomever that mayor's designee may be. I think it could be an alderman. I think I could designate an alderman based on what our attorney said. But that too is not good because,
An alderman, I didn't think an alderman can, receive compensation.
wouldn't receive compensation.
Oh, wouldn't
It would be a
receive.
designee
Oh,
because
okay.
the ordinance, yeah,
You get to know
yeah. The
that.
ordinance,
That's probably not gonna happen.
That's a money
well,
job
you know,
right there.
that's what the ordinance does not address compensation. It only addresses who doesn't.
Yeah, I knew
So,
that. I did.
but yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing you gotta think about in all of this. So, I think we need to take it slow from this point to figure out how we're gonna handle that, but anyway.
I think, having gone through this before and trying to set up the rules and the pay and the, you know, et cetera, that we just kind of took this from this place and this from this place and this from this, you know, we really didn't do I don't remember us doing any kind of study on the actual time it took, the actual, average pay for that in other areas, et cetera. So I do think we should spend a lot of time in clarifying all that, because it was always kind of
Yeah.
up in the air.
It is definitely time consuming, and I know, Ms. Jackson has assisted with some of that, you know, in the past, and taking pictures and corresponding and phone calling and things like that, so it is a lot to it. All right, any additional on that? Okay, we'll move forward. Tennessee Downtown Program, we will have a guest next month, November the 7th, to our board meeting, Ms. Jill Holland from Southwest Development. She was not able to make it this month, so she'll be back next month. Approval of Veterans Luncheon. I'll take a motion to approve that we have a Veterans Luncheon here in the Fire Hall, and for Saturday, November the 11th, with a $300 limit on food product preparation for the veterans.
Make a motion that we, set aside $300 for a veterans, luncheon at the Fire Hall on November the 11th.
All right, second by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Wood, it's your turn to roll call vote.
Yes.
Alderman Carter?
Yes.
Alderman Maynard?
Yes.
Alderman Moore?
Yes.
Okay, we appreciate that. I think it'll be great for us. I really don't see it really costing $300, because last year a lot of people donated some things.
I was gonna say,
But
who's
we'll-
heading this
yeah.
up? Who's heading this up?
That's a good question, good question.
I normally do the veterans and I don't care to do it again.
Okay, Alderman Morgan has volunteered. I'll get with you and try to help you as best we can, but, you know, the paper cups, plates, stuff like that, we'll get together and talk about the meal and things. I think that'll be a good time for us, okay? Recognize some of our mayors. And speaking of the veterans, that, the Veterans Day, it'd be also kind of an unveiling for our hometown heroes. We put out a thing about banners, for people who wanted to, honor a family member. We've got 14 of those that have been submitted. They have been ordered today. We've approved all of them, and then we'll be hanging those before Veteran Day, depending on the weather. We expect that to be up, so you'll see some hometown heroes. I'm not gonna say who, because some of those were sponsored and donated by different people, and the honorees may not even know about it. So they'll find out when they get their picture on the cover of, on the street. I was gonna say on the cover of Rolling Stone. But they get their picture hanging on the, for good honor and recognition, okay? All right, let's see. We've been through financial report, Alderman report. Alderman Maynard, I think you got a couple things to report to us, don't you, about coming up October?
Oh, October 31st, we'll be having Halloween downtown. And we're gonna stay on this side of the street. We'll be in front of, the Splat building right there. and be down, across almost to the post office. And then we'll shut off around the parking there, and everybody will have a spot. There'll be a good time. I'm trying to get in touch with Chase about, I think I'm not sure that the church may do theirs that night too, instead of doing a trunk or treat, so I'm gonna get with him and see what he says. But it's a good time, and if you were there last year and you saw the kids, I hope everybody attends, and I hope if you can't hand out candy because you work or whatever, I hope you bring your grandkids, cause it's gonna be a lot of fun. People are dressing up, we're just having a good time, so hope everybody comes. And the Christmas parade is Saturday, December the 2nd. Working on that.
Any other Alderman report? All right. Department reports from maintenance, y'all have anything? Maintenance. I will tell you, the maintenance department is gonna have to have a few repairs on the truck. We'll talk more about that probably in November's meeting. We've got some alignment issues, and we got some tires we need to have on it, and I think a couple of little minor things on it. What about the senior citizens? Y'all got anything?
No more than what you said.
Okay, yeah, the seniors have kinda got a list of things they wanna do with the $1,500, and, you know, they're under that threshold, and I'll help them with some of that, along with a couple of volunteers we gotta get some shades in the window, cause the sun is beating them to death in the morning sometimes, and, some other things, some new games and things that they wanna do, and, help them take care of some of that. Other department reports, I was hoping, Chief Young would not be called away, and Assistant Chief Bruce. There was some scuttlebutt about the fire truck issue that might have been posted out there in the public. I will tell you a little bit about what I know about that, which is not a whole lot, okay? So, in casual conversation with Assistant Chief Bruce here a few weeks ago, or a week or so ago, that he had mentioned something about getting the fire truck donated to the city. So, I was like, what are we talking about, okay? So last week I called Chief Young in and asked him, so what's the story on this fire truck? And, you know, I got no information about it, no knowledge, I got nothing, okay? And I don't know how long they've had this thought about a fire truck, but we can't vote or anything on that tonight. It wasn't on the agenda. We can't make a motion on it, but we can discuss it. So what I would tell you is I got little information. I don't know where it's coming from, who it's coming from, any details about it other than just a brief conversation with the chief about what kind of condition it may be in. But all capital assets come through the mayor's office and the board, all of them. There is no department that has the latitude to go out there and accept a asset that's gonna cost you money and say, we're just gonna get it without any approval of anybody. Also, in our purchasing policy, that I am the purchasing agent and approve all purchases for the city as the executive board, okay, as the mayor, that's what I do. So there are some things that were overlooked. I don't know, you know, hopefully maybe next month they'll get some more details together about what that is and what it looks like. I had a few calls about some stuff that's put on Facebook about it. None of that information was really shared with me regarding those kind of things, but I doubt anything's free. Okay, there's always costs associated some way in some form. So,
So was this for, let me, I hear what you're saying, and then was this for a fire truck or a rescue truck?
I don't know. Whatever was on the Facebook is the most I've seen information
Well, I don't believe
about it.
anything
So,
on Facebook, so
well,
there you go.
There you go. But what I would say, I called Chief Young in and asked him, so what's the story? And I didn't have a lot of details from him even at that moment. So for the city to consider something sizable like that, we really need to know if we're not getting a money pit or something that we're gonna have to put a lot of money in.
Well, I think it had,
Yeah.
probably when we did the budget,
Yeah.
when we had to submit our budget to the state, this should have been mentioned, that possibly something's gonna go wrong, or possibly we need this, or possibly, and that hasn't been mentioned to us, cause there's nobody here that does not want the best for everything in this town, and so we weren't told that, we should have been told that. And
Well,
and then ultimately, it's made us look like, trying to make us look like we're not good people.
Well, there are some issues with gaining information. I shared with y'all last month about employee conference I had with Chief Young about communication and getting details and getting information. Same thing with getting information about, hey, what are our priorities? What do we need? What equipment what's our inventory? I don't have a good list of inventory. Do we need this other apparatus or not? Are we surplus? If we're gonna surplus something, what are we gonna do with it? Are we doing fundraisers or not? So it's not enough information to be presented to the board at this time with any kind of action whatsoever. But because it was put out there in the public, and I did ask Chief about it, I wish he was here to be able to tell you a little bit more, and so maybe he will be able to get some of that documentation and bring it in the November meeting. So it may pop up on the agenda for the November meeting. But there is far too many unanswered questions about this whole thing for us to even consider. Okay? So, yes, ma'am.
I've been on the board a long time, and I don't know how many Benita would know, probably. How many times we've looked at buying this and trading this, and if we get it, it's not what we want, or it's not what we need, or it wasn't in as good a shape as we thought it was in, you know, and that has happened numerous times since 2008. And so, just to say, oh, they're like me, okay, I've gone to the store and there's a pair of shoes I like to buy, but I've already spent my clothing budget for that month, then, you know, even though whatever. So I don't think, unless it's an absolute necessity, can you make any kind of quick decisions about that type of purchase?
Yeah.
And that type of purchase, I would think, would need to, like, be budgeted, and their budget, maybe they want that in 3 years, and, you know, we work together in budgeting that so that we get everything we need, but we don't have that much money. You can't spend, and you never know what you're getting into. That's my.
Right. I understand what you're saying, and that is, you know, we want to make sure that we are planning ahead in every department about what our needs and priorities are, and what kind of things we, like I said, what we can afford to do. We got grants coming up in the new year, CBDG grants. We've got community parks grant. We got quite a bit can come up. But for me as the mayor, as the executive officer, I've got to have more planning and more priorities given to us so that I can provide to the board to say, hey, this is kind of a request. Can we do this? This is why it's needed, and this is what it's going to cost, all those kind of things. So just not enough information, but make sure that everybody's clear that all assets, capital assets, expenditures, and everything comes through the mayor's office. No department head has the authority to just go and do all of that. So that's and we also have a purchasing policy that spells out what the requirements are if you're even going to buy anything. So we don't want to trap ourselves into an expenditure that we thought, hey, this is going to be cheap, and then it ends up costing us a bundle. So, you know what? I don't have any additional on that. Any other questions or department reports or anything like that? Okay. All right. So I guess and hopefully the chief and they're out on the call, and so hopefully they'll provide some documentation, and I'll try to reach out to them again and say, hey, you know, and this is the issue. And I did tell them I couldn't put it on this month's agenda because we've already got the agenda set. We had to put the agenda out for the public prior to the meeting, and I just kind of got this conference just like early last week. I didn't have time to do all of it, nor did I have the information. But anyway, looking forward to somewhere ahead. All right. Can I get I guess a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
I say.
Motion. Okay. Motion to adjourn by Alderman Carter, and it's over.